Well, the first thing I want to do is to tell you who I am. Mark Baldwin, Senior Lecturer in Social Work at the University of Bath, but also External Lecturer at the University of Stirling. So that's my connection with Scotland, and for that reason too, very pleased to be here. It's continuing my education north of the border. What I want to do is to cover quite a lot obviously in a very short time. So I need to get across a flavour of some of the aspects of the sort of things that I would want to talk about if I had longer. And for that reason, it needs to be fairly rhetorical, I think. What I would like to do is to leave people with ideas and some potential for taking action in these areas. That's what I'm hoping that people will take away with them. But I'm going to need to skip over some of the slides. I think everybody's got the PowerPoint presentation. It's been slightly adapted from the version that you've got. But some of them I will be, as I say, skimming over, but you will have the opportunity, obviously, to see what I've said later on. What I want to do is to provide a very, very brief historical perspective on social work and its response to social injustice, and put a particular focus on social work education. And I've taken this kind of time period from 1970 to the present day, which I see as being a period of change, but also a period of continuity. Fairly arbitrary choice of 1970, but I think that was a time when social work and social work education certainly really took off. A huge increase in social workers from that period. And a reminder of some of the key references. I did. There is a bibliography, and I'm going to kind of pass that on to be located on, I think, on the website, so people have a chance to see those references. And also I want to present some of the choices which are facing social work and social work education right now, here and now in 2007, where we have got to since the 1970s. So if promoting human rights means resisting social injustices, then what are the opportunities that we have? And like I say, I need to be fairly rhetorical about that. So if we go back over the history of developments, as I say, change and continuity, it's not a uniform development, but if we look back to the 1970s, this was a period in which sociology was quite a power within social work education. There was a focus on class and poverty and social action. However, within social work education, the anti-racist approach was really very much multiculturalist, and a lot of the literature within social work education was within that kind of framework, not specifically anti-racist. And the old social work values of helping, which were reflected in books like Helen Perlman's book, were still very much there. Bits about building helping relationships, and very much at odds, I think, with some of the radical social work literature that was beginning to emerge in the 70s, Bailey and Bracon, Corrigan and Leonard, and also the community development thrust within social work and social work education. Which was there. And I know that this enabled a lot of very interesting debate within a lot of social work education courses at the time. And certainly that notion of social work as social action and community work was where I came into social work, having been an unqualified worker, suddenly realising that social work was a very political activity. We move on into the 80s and 90s, of course we had Thatcherism, and Margaret Thatcher famously saying there's no such thing as society, there's only individuals and families, and a government that was very much built around an ideology of individualism, and we had also privatisation and managerialism very swiftly being built into health and social care. We also had the Diploma in Social Work with its value requirements, which I think very much put social work education at odds with the Department of Health at that particular time. The Department of Health, in fact, required SETSFA at the time to remove the phrase anti-racism from its literature because it was seen as being negative language, which I thought was an interesting symbolic point. And we had during that period a number of publications like Anti-Racist Social Work, feminist social work, books about feminist social work, and the social model of disability beginning to be built into the knowledge base for social work education. And then in the 1990s and up to the present day, again, I mean, on the negative side, we've had a new Labour government in the latter stages, a new Labour government who have certainly pledged to reduce poverty, but we've seen an increased, continuing increase in the gap between the richest and the poorest in the UK, and no let-up in managerialism and privatisation in health and social care setting. That's the kind of negative side. On the positive side, a great deal of legislation dealing with discrimination, the consumerism and the citizens' charters of the Major era have kind of led to this huge burgeoning service user movement, and which is much more kind of democratic and empowering. And the professionalisation of social work, obviously, as well, with registration and the new degree being introduced, requiring service user and carer involvement in the managing of the degree, but also the loss of the requirement for building values into the curriculum, and that's something that I want to come back to. So a period of change and continuity as well. Something has happened there. That's right, yes. I just want to, I mean, these are things that I'm going to come back to, so I'm just going to skip over that. That's why I turned over my page, okay, and I'm going to skip over that as well. So I think what this leaves us with, and for social workers and people who are registered as social workers in all sorts of different fields then, is with a choice which has an effect on our role within social work, broadly speaking. So in the face of continued inequality and social injustice, we have a choice of these three things, and I rhetorically kind of present these, and I think that they fit very neatly with people like Malcolm Payne's kind of model for how social work can be. So we can either accept the status quo, this would be social work as resource managers. We could work to alleviate problems caused by poverty and discrimination through current organisations. This is very much social work as helping, or we can resist the status quo, both as outcome and organisation. And this would be the model of social work as changing the world, kind of that radical social work tradition, if you like.